Short-term rentals, long-term rentals. What are the differences that you need to know? We're going to cover them today in this 2-minute take. Disclaimer, I'm not a tax professional. You should talk to one and ask lots of questions. The IRS says a property is considered a short-term rental if the average stay is less than 7 days. Think a vacation condo in Florida that's rented by a different family each week. If the stay average is longer than 7 days, it's considered a long-term rental. That may not seem like a long time, but that's just how the IRS sees it. You can think of these as your traditional lease situations lasting months to years. Be aware that local municipalities and governments may have different guidelines affecting how a short-term rental can be taxed and whether or not it needs to be registered as a business. When it comes to taxes, there are some pretty significant differences, so listen up. The losses you incur from a long-term rental property can only be used to offset the income from the long-term rental properties. Owning a short-term rental property is considered active income because the IRS knows there's a lot more involved in the day-to-day. Therefore, the IRS will let you use your losses not only against the income from the property, but also up to $25,000 of your W-2 income. Okay, so what does all that mean, right? So the IRS basically knows that running a short-term rental property involves a lot more day-to-day activity on your part. So they let you kind of consider it a job. So they let you use the losses from the short-term rental property against not only the profits from that short-term rental property, but also against your W-2 income, your daily job income, up to about $25,000. Okay, so let's take a look at an example. Let's say you rehabbed a property for $20,000. If that property was a long-term rental property, you could only write off that $20,000 up to the total amount of rent that the property received that year. So let's say the property received $12,000 in rent that year. You would still be left with $8,000 in losses that would have to be carried forward to the next year. But with a short-term rental property under the same circumstances, you could take that remaining $8,000 and write it off against your W-2 income, the income from your day-to-day job, therefore taking your tax liability $8,000 down for the year. Short-term rentals have some strange quirks when compared to long-term rentals. For instance, in many municipalities, you'll need to register your short-term rental as a business, and you may be subject to certain taxes that aren't applied to long-term rentals. Also, with a short-term rental, you'll be expected to provide some amenities and services that aren't usually provided with long-term rentals. These include things like silverware, paper towels, toilet paper, Wi-Fi, things like that. Okay, so we've looked at some major differences between short-term rental properties and long-term rental properties. And of course, the question is, which one's better? Well, in my opinion, it just comes down to the investor, the strategy, and the deal that you can get. Long-term rental properties are usually seen as a more stable investment with less day-to-day management. Short-term rental properties usually earn higher profits, have a slight tax advantage, but do require more management on a day-to-day basis. We hope you found the video useful. Please don't forget to hit that thumbs up button so we can keep bringing you more content. This has been another 2-minute take from Real Simple Rentals.